Good evening, everyone. It's me, Drive Ghost, and today I'm going to be power ranking every version of Vilgax from the classic series, Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, and up to Omniverse. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So I know I already listed the series, but even each individual series has different versions of Vilgax. So which Vilgaxes, or Vilgaxi, whichever one you want to use, I don't know what the plural for this guy is, are we using in this video? Well, in this video, I'll be ranking classic Vilgax from the original series, the original Ben 10,000 Vilgax, UAF Vilgax, Dagengax, otherwise known as Ultimate Vilgax, Omniverse Vilgax, and Malgax. I considered adding in Reboot Vilgax, but I haven't really watched a lot of the Reboot, certainly not enough to scale him accurately, and I don't really want to half-ass it, so I decided I just wouldn't include him. And as for Ben 10,000 Vilgax, we'll only be using the classic version, as while there's no reason to believe that the other alternate futures don't have their own Vilgaxes, we haven't seen them, and anything they'd be capable of would be purely speculation, which isn't really fair. Like, you could say that, oh, in Omniverse, the Ben 10,000 version of Vilgax has counters for Alien X. Like, I doubt it, but I guess that could technically be true if we ever saw that. But I didn't want to get too much into speculation unless I needed to, so I figured I would just stick with the versions that we actually have stuff for. Anyway, let's get right into it, and by the way, this image here belongs to the ink tank if you didn't know. And as much as it pains me, I have to put Classic Vilgax as the weakest. Sadly, there's just too many reasons to believe and suggest that he is the weakest of the Vilgaxes we're covering today. Now, he's definitely not weak by any means. Even classic Vilgax would certainly stand his ground in later series of Ben 10. Like, he could definitely give hybrids and stuff a run for their money, probably even beat the crap out of them. And he did require Ben's strongest aliens at the time to fight one-on-one with him regularly, like Forearms, Cannonbolt, Way Big. He needed his heavy hitters to fight Vilgax. However, the other versions of Vilgax simply have better feats, or better reasons to believe they'd be significantly stronger. Vilgax is still a genius and absolute powerhouse at this point, just the others get a lot more ridiculous with how much stronger they are. Next up is the version of Vilgax from Ultimate Alien and Alien Force, otherwise known as UAF, UAF Vilgax. Well, UAF Vilgax is controversial with how the series handled him, both in the character and the plot. Both the characters and the plot heavily imply that Vilgax is stronger than he was when Ben defeated him before. While he doesn't have his cybernetics, he does have the power of the greatest heroes from 10 worlds and a variety of tools, weapons, and abilities the previous version just didn't have. And while he's not as tactical, he's not really dumb, but he's not as much of a genius, UAF Vilgax does get a higher spot due to being superior physically, in terms of equipment, and having greater experience. Next is one that I'm a little bit iffy on, Omniverse Vilgax. Well, for the most part, base Omniverse Vilgax doesn't have as many feats to my knowledge to suggest that he'd be stronger than UAF Vilgax. There's little reason logically to believe he'd be weaker than them. The only excuse I could think of would be saying the Annihilator undid his absorption of the 10 heroes, or regressed him slightly, but there's nothing to really suggest that to my memory. While the reset did change many things in the series, it's typically left vague as to what it has and hasn't altered. Though because of the lack of feats and abilities, I would say that Omniverse Vilgax is either equal to UAF Vilgax or slightly weaker, with the advantage of more experience and a better arsenal because he likely has better equipment by this point, and we have seen him with more powerful stuff like the Chronosapien Time Bomb. Alright, time for some fun. Vilgax 10,000. Vilgax in the original Ben 10,000 future has implications that make him an upgrade compared to previous versions. While it's obvious he's superior to classic Vilgax, the other two would require some clarification. Vilgax claims when fighting against Ben 10,000 that Animo altered his DNA to include counters against Ben 10,000's aliens up to that point, with us seeing a few of them in action. While he doesn't seem to have a counter for being frozen by Arctiguana, that could just be explained that Arctiguana was an alien he had used against Vilgax or Anemo at that point, or whatever counter he had didn't exactly counter being frozen, but countered like being blasted with ice or something. That one's a lot more speculation and probably just a plot hole, but those are some explanations for it. Now, if we were to include some abilities he shows in the game Ben 10 Protector of Earth, which, if you didn't know, fun fact, Vilgax at the end of that game is actually modeled after Ben 10,000 Vilgax and not the normal Vilgax. It would give him a further leg up, but that game isn't canon. Either way, this version of Vilgax has counters to a stronger and more experienced Ben, which I believe gives him an advantage over the other versions. Now it's time for Malware's Electric Boogaloo. Malgax is an Omniverse Vilgax merged with a suit created from the remains of Malware, a corrupt galvanic mechamorph. This form not only increases Vilgax's physical abilities greatly, it also grants him Malware's powers to create and assimilate weaponry and technology, as well as, just create weapons from his body and stuff. I put this version above Ben 10,000 Vilgax due to that version of Ben 10k having aliens less powerful than Atomics, excluding Waybig, who that version of Vilgax didn't even fight against, while Malgax was able to endure attacks from and defeat Atomics, an alien who previously no-diffed two different Ultimate Aliens. His versatility also gives him the advantage, landing him in second place. By the way, I'm not saying Atomics is as strong as Waybig. I'm just saying that excluding Waybig, Ben 10,000 assumedly didn't have any aliens on that level at that point. And now we get to the one who is simultaneously the most underwhelming and overwhelming. Dagongax, more formerly known as Ultimate Vilgax, is a version of UAF Vilgax who's been granted immense power by Dagon, an extremely powerful godlike being who was able to defeat Ultimate Waybig, and Vilgax, through the use of a special machine, was able to fully absorb Dagon's powers, essentially making Vilgax an immortal reality-altering god. Capable of, just to name a few things, energy projection, nigh invulnerability, regeneration, shapeshifting, flight, and many other powers, Dagongax is undeniably the strongest version of Vilgax. Considering he had the power of Dagon, who's stronger than Ultimate Waybig, with Waybig already being Ben's second most powerful alien at the time. Yeah, if he knew how to use all of Clockwork's powers, Clockwork would be more powerful than Waybig, but he doesn't, so it's not his second strongest yet. So my final ranking goes as follows. Classic Vilgax, UAF Vilgax, and or Omniverse Vilgax, Vilgax 10,000, Malgax, and Ultimate Vilgax. for the reasons I've stated that this is an accurate ranking between these versions of Vilgax. I can definitely see some debate between UAF Vilgax and Omniverse Vilgax, and maybe for even Ben 10,000 Vilgax, but this is personally what I believe to be correct. But if you believe any of these rankings should be switched around, feel free to have a friendly debate in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.